Hello again, students. This is Mrs. Zara continuing with Unit 3, Ratios and Proportional Relationships. Today we're going to talk about writing and solving proportions. We're going to come back to the sports question in just a second, but please find your guided notes and fill in your definition for a proportion. A proportion is an equation that states that two ratios are equivalent or equal. Remember, a ratio is just a comparison of two numbers. The proportion is read, this is how you would read a proportion, 3:5 as 6:10. And then algebraically, remember variables represent our unknown quantities, A:B as C:D. Please remember you can never have 0 in your denominator of a fraction or ratio, so B and D are non-zero numbers. And let's go back to that example that was on the first slide. It says a person burned about 150 calories while skateboarding for 30 minutes. About how many calories would the person burn while skateboarding for 60 minutes? In this example, we are going to use a proportion to answer the question. Since calories was the category that was given first, we are going to compare our number of calories to the number of minutes this person was skateboarding. So you can see here in the example, 150 calories was burned for 30 minutes of exercise or skateboarding, and we're going to compare that to what we're looking for, which is how many calories, that's represented with the C, in 60 minutes. We're going to talk about two different ways to solve proportions today, and the first way is mental math. These are equivalent ratios. So if we can use mental math to ask ourselves what number was multiplied times 30 to give us 60, then we can do the same thing to the top number to get our unknown quantity. 30 times 2, of course, gets us to 60. So to keep this an equivalent ratio, whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do the top. And 150 times 2 will give us that 300 calories. 300 calories are burned in 60 minutes. The second way to solve a proportion is using algebra. So write this example in your guided notes. We have 6/10 equals x over 25, or you would read it 6:10 as x:25. Now with algebra, you want to try to solve for x, and you want to start on the side that has the variable. So we're going to start over here on the right side. We want to isolate the variable. So ask yourself, what is the inverse operation of what they are doing over here? Well, they're dividing by 25. So the inverse operation, or opposite of division, would be multiplying by 25. We're going to keep this equation balanced, so we're going to multiply the other side by 25 as well. And then finally we're going to solve. 25 goes into 25 one time. 25 goes into 25 one time. So on this right side we just have x times 1, which is just x. And over here on the left side you can simplify by 5. 5 will go into 10 2 times, and 5 will go into 25 5 times. So 5 times 6 will give you 30, and 1 times 2 will give you 2. 30 divided by 2, remember that's first come, first served, so the 30 would go in the house, the 2 would go outside, is 15. So x equals 15. Now I want you to try some examples on your own. 1 through 4, I want you to use mental math to solve the proportion. And for numbers 5 through 8, I want you to use algebra to solve the proportion. I'm going to do the first two questions in each set to show you what I mean. For number 1, we're going to use mental math. We know that these are equivalent ratios. So ask yourself, what number times 5 will get me to 20? And that number is 4. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do the top to keep everything balanced and equal. 1 times 4 equals 4. So z equals 4. So use the same mental math method for 1 through 4. And then over on this side for number 5, I would like for you to use algebra to solve. So we're going to start on the side with the variable, and since they divided by 49, in order to cancel it out, we're going to do the inverse, which would be to multiply by 49. Balance and multiply both sides by 49, and that's going to cancel over here on the right side, leaving us just with m. Then over here on the left side, we'll have to do a little bit of math. 49 times 4, and I'll come over here to write since I'm kind of running out of room. 49 times 4 is going to give us 196, and 1 times 14 is going to give us 14. So this is 196 divided by 14, which equals 14. M equals 14. So please use this method for 6, 7, and 8. We will check your answers tomorrow in class. The last thing we're going to talk to you about today is writing and solving a proportion. So let's talk about setting up a proportion from a word problem. There are different ways to set up a proportion and still get the same answer. So let's talk about those ways using this example. It says, yesterday you bought 8 bagels for $4. Today you want only 5 bagels. How much will 5 bagels cost? We'll first decide what you want to compare. I think I'm going to start by comparing the cost to the number of bagels that I'm getting. Yesterday I bought 8 bagels, so I'll put 8 down here for the number of bagels, for $4. Remember, our cost is going to go here in the numerator. We're comparing cost to the number of bagels. And then I'm going to set that equal to how much I'm going to pay today. So today I only want to buy 5. So because my number of bagels is in the denominator, I need the 5 to be in the denominator as well. How much will that cost? That is my unknown quantity. That is my variable. Now, I'm going to use algebra to solve, so I'll start on the side with the variable and multiply by 5, and I'm going to do that to both sides. That way this will cancel, and I'll be left with x equals 5 times 4 is 20, 1 times 8 is 8, and 20 divided by 8 is $2.50. So 5 bagels will cost me $2.50. Now, there's another way to write the proportion. This time I'm going to compare the bagels, the number of bagels I'm buying today compared to the number of bagels I bought yesterday. So today I only want 5. Yesterday I bought 8. So that's my comparison. And we're going to compare it to the cost of today compared to the cost of yesterday. So the cost today, that's what we're looking for. So that's going to be our variable. That's our unknown quantity. And then the cost yesterday was $4. And now from here we can solve this proportion, and I'm just going to use algebra again, starting on the side with a variable. Since they divided by 4, I'll multiply by 4. Do the same thing to both sides. This cancels, and x equals 4 times 5 is 20, and 1 times 8 is 8. 20 divided by 8 is going to give you $2.50. So you can see that both ways were different. The way I wrote them was different. However, I still got the same answer. The most important thing to remember when setting up a proportion is that you pay attention to the order. Order does matter when writing ratios and setting up proportions. Alright, here's our last example for today. It's about the Empire State Building. At maximum speed, the elevators in the Empire State Building can pass 80 floors in 45 seconds. Follow the steps below to find the number of floors that the elevators can pass in 9 seconds. For this question, we are comparing floors to seconds. So what I like to do is whatever comes first, whatever unit comes first or category, that is the number I'm going to put on the top of my proportion. And then whatever category or unit comes second, that will be on the bottom of my ratio or proportion. And so now we're going to set up our proportion. 80 floors, the Empire State Building elevators can go 80 floors in 45 seconds. And I'll add my units there just so I don't get confused. And then as I read the question, it says to find the number of floors that the elevators can pass in 9 seconds. So 9 seconds, this is the information I know. Since seconds is in the denominator, I need my 9 seconds to be in this denominator as well. And I'm looking for the number of floors that the elevators can go in 9 seconds. Okay, from here, I'm going to use algebra to solve my proportion. Since they will start on the side with the variable, and since they divided by 9, I'm going to multiply by 9, doing the opposite or the inverse operation in order to solve. So this will cancel, and x equals 9 times 80 over 45. I am going to cross cancel here by 9 because 9 will go into 9 one time, and 9 will go into 45 5 times. So we've got 80 divided by 5, and 80 divided by 5 is 16. So in 9 seconds, the elevators at the Empire State Building will go 16 floors. Okay, that concludes today's lesson. See you tomorrow.